Okay, it's time to take a look at another hotly anticipated game for PSVR2, but for November this time, I believe. The embargo lifts today, October 31st, but the game comes out in a couple of days. And that is Vampire: The Masquerade Justice. This is a game where you play as a vampire in Venice, having to stealth around, kill people, discover a plot, make some dialogue options, and a whole lot more. And we're going to dive into the game, my impressions of it. I have to be transparent though, I haven't fully finished the game at time of recording, but I have played around 3 hours or so. I unfortunately haven't had the time to play through all of it, but I still wanted to put my impressions out there because although I can't comment on the entire story in terms of its entire runtime and where it goes and what I think about it, I still have enough of a grasp on the gameplay, the writing style, the AI, the mechanics, all that good stuff. So let's get straight into it.
Hold circle aim at enemy. Release to perform a blind attack. Whoa!
First of all, I have to give a massive disclaimer here at the start that the gameplay you're seeing does not reflect what you're seeing in the headset in terms of frames per second. Essentially, that means how choppy it is for those who are uninitiated. For some reason, the social screen just looked really choppy. I restarted my console, my game, all that good stuff. I'm assuming it's just a small issue with the game, and for the purposes of the gameplay I'm showing you, it's quite hard for me to get across how the game felt to play visually because a lot of the gameplay, especially in the open streets of Venice, seems to run really poorly on the social screen, but rest assured everything was running perfectly smoothly in the headset. So take what you will from the gameplay that you're seeing, but just keep in mind it is running as smooth as any other PSVR2 game inside the headset.
What the fuck is going on my social screen FPS? Is this actually how it looks for you guys? What the hell?
Let's start with the premise of the game. Being an RPG, it gives you some side missions to do, some options in dialogue to choose what you really want to progress with, and this is semi-surface level, I would say. A lot of the dialogue options I've picked haven't really come back around with repercussions for the entire story, at least not yet, but they always could do. But so far in my 3 hours or so of playtime, they've just been nice little options for you to characterize yourself within the person that you're playing, and it's quite nice. It allows you to pick male or female as well, depending on what vampire you want to be, and pick what arm build you have, because all you see of your body is your arms, which is cool. Good options for immersing yourself and role-playing in the character, and ultimately it's just nice to have these dialogue options for you to properly role-play of what kind of person you want to be in this vampire world.
Yeah, I'll go the male character. It's nice they include that. You get to choose what voice, what gender you are.
The textures were probably my second biggest issue with the game. The first being one I'll talk about in a little bit after this, but the textures are just a bit meh. In terms of art direction, the game looks great, and I'm not going to fault the developers on making a bad looking product, because it definitely isn't. But you can tell that this game was mainly designed for Quest. We're getting a Quest port here, but it might look a little bit better in terms of, resolution in some areas, but the textures are still very much Quest-like. If you're looking for something that's going to be hyper-realistic, this isn't it, but the art direction does carry a fair bit. Stuff like your hands, though, do look really good, and certain objects do look great as well. It's just mainly floor, water, and wall textures in certain places look a little rough. But that is to be expected. I wasn't really let down by this that much. It was just if I have to pick an issue with the game, if I was held at gunpoint, it would probably be that. It didn't really put me off throughout all of it, though, because as I said, art direction's good.
That's a really cool setting. This is so Saints and Sinners, isn't it? Wow. Look at that. Halo 3 rat. Halo 3 rat.
As I said though, there was a slightly bigger issue of loading screens. Basically every single gameplay section is split up between a loading screen. And while this wasn't too bad because they were fairly short, it did feel a little disjointed at points, going from one small area and having to press on a door to then load the next area and have to wait. And it does take you out a little bit. Although this is not nearly as egregious as other games like Green Hell, which put you in a loading screen abruptly and then promptly put you into an area that looks exactly the same as you've just been in. What I'm trying to get at here is Vampire: The Masquerade on PSVR2 uses these loading screens to introduce you to different looking areas. It's not like they're completely unwarranted. So I do understand, it's just I know a lot of people might be taking out the experience because of these loading screens, and if I had to pick, that's probably my biggest issue with the game, but I was having so much fun with the rest of it that I didn't really care that much.
There are a lot of loading screens between areas, but they're quick, so yeah. And it's not like a Green Hell situation where you're being interrupted between segments that look the same. It's obvious these are very different environments that you're being taken to, so it's not too bad.
And I was having fun with the gameplay. The stealth and the puzzles, even though the puzzles are not very hard at all, which is good for me because I'm stupid, I had a lot of fun with them. Killing enemies as well is incredibly satisfying. They've done it in a way where you have to grab them on their shoulder, bring them in, bite them, and then throw them away. It's visceral, it's brutal, and it's satisfying, and I don't know whether it's going to be able to be monetizable or not. It also gives the option of just straight up punching people. It takes 2 punches to take out an enemy, and they go satisfyingly flying in a pretty brutal fashion. What drinking the blood of the enemies actually does is refill essentially your stamina meter, which can be used for various different things like performing stealth attacks, cloaking yourself so enemies don't see you, or creating projectiles for a crossbow that you get later on in the game. And that fundamental system of draining blood to refill this bar is a solid basis for the gameplay. You can tell that they really thought about how the energy meter works, how much each action actually drains, and balanced it accordingly, and you feel like you're a good mix of incredibly powerful superhuman and also vulnerable when you run out of, these different tricks that you have.
This is sick. I mean, this level for some reason is at 2 FPS for you guys, so you can't really tell how sick it is. But it is.
Although you aren't boringly stuck with the base abilities that you get, there is an upgrade tree a la Synapse or other roguelike games. Or, to be honest, any other RPG. I don't know why I went to roguelike there. Those are just the other VR games that come to mind. You'll get XP from completing missions, and you can use this to upgrade your abilities to either improve, say, your intimidation of other NPCs, or give you new abilities to take out enemies, and you do progress pretty quickly through this tree, keeping the gameplay fresh constantly throughout the first opening few hours which I've played.
Nom 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 nom. Into the canal. Oh.
A big part of this game is also parkour, and it kind of feels like we have Assassin's Creed Nexus at home, if that makes sense, although not nearly as janky as you'd imagine from that statement. There are quite a lot of objects in the world that you can parkour onto, but a lot of the time you are guided into what you should be using. Sure, you can stay on the ground and you can just take out enemies that way, but more often than not, the game will have clear platforms for you to jump onto to encourage you to go for those stealth kills or to bypass enemies altogether. I would have liked momentum to be kept up a little bit more between pushes off your hands off different objects with the parkour. For example, I could be grabbing onto a pipe and want to kind of throw myself across the street to grab onto a ledge, and it wouldn't really throw me as far as I really would want to in that situation. But apart from that, going from object to object, climbing and swinging through the city of Venice was an incredibly satisfying and unique experience I've never had in VR before. Sure, I've climbed and called the mountain, but that felt a lot more slow. This felt like I was really an agile vampire, going through an urban setting, and that's a big thumbs up from me. It feels unique and it feels fun.
It really makes you feel like Batman. Can I just... Can really just let you parkour across stuff. And
I will say though, the gameplay was a little janky at points. Interacting with some objects was kind of difficult. I'm not sure if this will be fixed in the day 1 patch, because I don't know what's going to be in the day 1 patch, but I know they are going to be updating it as we go further into launch. This is a pre-launch build of the game, so who knows. But picking up some objects like paper was a little rough sometimes. I'd go to pick it up, my hand would kind of get stuck in the table a little bit. To be honest though, they were so infrequent, these issues, that I didn't really care about them. The game was still incredibly fun, and they only reared their head a couple of times.
Let's throw it down the hole. Or she'll get stuck there, never mind.
I better talk about the story that I've experienced so far as well. And I don't want to comment on the entire story, obviously I can't, so let me just talk about the writing a little bit. I found that the character writing and the world building was pretty good, if a little edgy. It sounded like a lot of the characters had just learned how to use swear words for the first time in their lives, but then there are other characters that accompany you that are quite endearing and I really liked. So yeah, overall, Vampire the Masquerade Justice is a good game. I really enjoyed playing it, and I have no idea what other reviewers are going to think of it, but it's very Saints and Sinners-like for me, and I feel right at home with that, with a little mix of Half-Life Alyx and some mechanics. There's a gravity glove that you basically have that allows you to throw up objects and then catch them, just like Half-Life Alyx, and although there's no in-universe explanation for that, it's just a nice accessibility feature to have built into the character that you're playing as that makes the gameplay feel more fluid.
It basically is the Half-Life Alyx, like the gravity gloves. That's cool. Okay, it's like a blend of some of the best different type VR game mechanics.
From the fluid parkour to the great setting of Venice to the satisfying combat, I had a great time with Vampire the Masquerade. Let me know if you're looking forward to it in the comments below, and if you have any questions, I will be willing to answer them. So let me know, again, in the comments below. And thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.
Whoa, please move. No. Oh well. Can't have everything, can we?